Hello and welcome to Pulse of Culture. At the turn of the 20th century, Paris was the place where artists went to reinvent themselves, and for a group of Polish women, it became the stage for a fight for artistic independence. Now, the exhibition titled Destination Paris, Polish Women Artists from Bourdelle's Studio, is on display at the Kierunek Sculpture Park in Warsaw. To discuss how women artists are reclaiming their rightful place at the table, we're joined by Sonia Kisza, author of the best-selling book Art Hysteria. Hello and welcome, delighted to have you with us.
Thank you, hi.
So let's start with this destination. Why was Paris so important at the time?
Well, Paris was the artistic capital of the world, so it was obviously the destination for everyone, not only for Polish people. It was a place where everybody went if they wanted to become visible in the art market or as artists in general, get some education, because also they had some schools that were opened for women that was not popular at that time at any country, really.
It was unusual, right, for women to study?
Yes, it was, because, well, women, especially in Poland, because of the partition, they were destined to have children, to be wives, to raise those children with Polish tradition, and that was really important to keep the nation alive. So that was the main purpose of every woman's life. So you can imagine if you have a daughter and she's coming to you and she's saying, I want to be an artist, that was a scandal. So I think they opened in the Academy of Warsaw in 1904 and then in Krakow in 1920. And before that time, it was really hard to get education, any education, but artistic education, it was impossible.
So they had to go abroad?
Yeah, they went to Munich or they went to Paris. There were two options really, or Petersburg, but that's, that was a bit different.
So Antoine Bourdelle, who was he and why was his studio so important?
Antoine Bourdelle was a sculptor, and he was really, he had this mission to educate girls, which was, again, unusual. And he was really voting for Polish independence. He was really active when it comes to educating Poles and being kind of a representative or something like that. He wasn't Polish. He just knew that it's important for Poland to get independence. So he was a figure that everybody thought about. If any girl wanted to become a sculptress, she would go to Bourdelle.
Can you give us some names, perhaps, and perhaps some stories of the most accomplished or unusual students?
I think my favorite one is Mela Muter. She was a Jewish girl, and she went to study in Paris, and she went to study in Academia Julia, which was one of the most known, and also to Antoine Bourdelle. And funny, because she was studying sculpture, but then she is well known for her paintings.
That's right.
And they're really beautiful, and I think that's one of my favorite painters of Polish painter, and she's not really known yet. She should be, because she was exceptional. And another one that was really successful was Olga Niewska. She studied in Krakow, and she had her solo exhibition in Warsaw and in Krakow just after graduating, before going to Paris. So they were really successful at their time. It was just their stories were erased.
Right, yet if we were to ask people on the street about Polish female sculptors, I believe that we would probably get one name if we're lucky.
I think
that would be a Bakanowicz. I mean, that's my guess. So why they are so little known?
Well, there is this word called bias, and art history was written by a very specific group, usually white males, academic ones. So they kind of erased women. They didn't. Like, there were women who were successful, but then when researchers were writing, for example, popular books, they just didn't take their names in. So they didn't speak about them. So in the end, we kind of forgot about them.
Yet I believe you tried to change that with your book, Art Hysteria. So who are the most important sculptors of that era, or perhaps artists in general? You've mentioned Mela Muter. Who else?
Yeah, I think Mela Muter, Olga Niewska. My favorite also is Mika Mickun. She's really interesting because she works with ceramics. So it's very innovative, and so it's very interesting. But I think another one that maybe people would say would be Alina Szapocznikow. So I think
that's later on.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was later on.
Era, yeah.
But the artist that we're talking about, and that Ewa Ziembińska, the curator of Destination Paris, she's showing those artists from like 20s. They kind of made it possible for the later artists to studying in Poland, so they were making it more possible for more and more women to become sculptresses.
They were these trail-blazing artists. But I wonder, you've mentioned that some of these women were erased by people who wrote about art history. But how does the market value their works?
There are really interesting researches about that. For example, whenever we have a piece of art, and we are asked to value it, we value it more if we think that men made them.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
And we do it now. So you can imagine, and we are a bit more progressive, I'm not saying everyone, but in general, less conservative than people used to be in 19th century. But still we have those biases. So it works like that. So men's work is always more valued. And for example, when you read newspapers from Olga Niewska's time, it would say in her reviews that she is working like a man, that her sculptures are like men would make them. So anything that men does is really good, and anything a woman does is not really good. If she makes that like a man, you know.
I was aware of this wage divide in the corporate world, but I wasn't aware that it's also the case when it comes to art.
Definitely.
That's very unfortunate.
Definitely.
So how come that we hear about these women now? Is there sort of a resurgence of interest in them? Because we recently spoke about Olga Boznańska, for instance. She's still not a household name, but she's more and more known. So is the same thing happening for these other female artists?
Yes, definitely. Because we see, I mean, feminist art history was actually invented in like 50 years ago. So academics and researchers decided that maybe art history that we learn every day is not really perfect, and we should do something about that. So they start writing about it, but then it became only known in academic fields. So I feel that right now, because of books like mine or books like Sylwia Ziętek, is making people interested. So I think right now it's a very good time to reevaluate anything that we know about.
But don't you think that the ultimate goal should be just getting rid of this divide, female-male? Just, you know,
the other
look
goal,
at art,
yeah, definitely. You know? But there are the biases, and we can't really do anything about them. We have to see that, and first we have to. I'm writing in my book. I'm writing that it's not really about only restoring the names. It's about talking about the field itself. That it's not. It shouldn't be just. It shouldn't just be stories about individuals. We have to understand that art is really a social discipline, that it was always about the politics, it was also always about the certain place and certain time. And we have to look at it like that, not only, oh, geniuses, oh, great artists. No, we have to see that art is a very big field, and it's always connected to history, it's always connected to politics. We have to look at it like that.
Right, embedded in the broader context of given times. Yes, you're a woman on a mission. You not only wrote a book, but you also have a very popular Instagram profile.
Yes.
Also entitled Art Hysteria, or Hysteria Sztuki in Polish, for those who would like to look it up. So what is your goal? What is your mission?
I think to to shake it a bit, just to make the fuss about it. Because we should know that we're not really learning history as it should be learned. We're learning history that is a history of domination. So my goal is just to show people that it's really interesting, that history is a cycle.
And you're using paintings in a very entertaining way, some of them as memes. So how do you come up with these works? I mean, where do you find them? Because some of them are very obscure.
I find them on Instagram, to be honest, or in museums. It depends. It's just that there's so many paintings that we don't know, that I don't know, because we are taught certain amount of paintings that someone decided are the most important ones. And that is something that I don't agree with. Like, you have to reevaluate that. So I'm learning a lot myself, to be honest, on this profile, because I always come up with some new paintings or new artists. There's just so much more to discover. So obviously learning new names is very hard, but that's the goal, you know, to know different artworks and to see that it's really interesting that in every country, in every part of the world, people were connected through art. So the history of the world, the history of the human being is really connected to the art.
That's one of the first traits of modern humans, right?
Actually, the oldest paintings in the caves, there are the prints of hands, and 70% of those prints are made by women.
Oh, that is a very interesting point.
So maybe the oldest artists in the world were female.
That's entirely possible, you never know. But I just wanted to go back to Mela Mutter, because women were also oftentimes the subject of her work. She painted pregnant women, women with babies. So why this theme, and how important do you think was and is motherhood for female artists?
It was always an issue. You know, why are there so many great male artists? Because of their wives, most of the time. It was just because they didn't have to deal with everyday life. They didn't have to deal with their children, and they didn't have to, like, they have their own managers. The wives were the managers. But when a woman was getting married and having babies, often the careers were just finished because they were not able to carry on. Of course, we have some exceptions. For example, many women decided not to get married at all. For example, Olga Niewska, she never married. But when it comes to a theme, why do they paint mothers so often? Is because women were not allowed to study anatomy of male anatomy till the end of the 19th century. So they were usually closed in that area of the house and of friends. So that's why they often painted what they saw. And I think the first case like that was Mary Cassatt, was American impressionist. And she is known for painting also, like Mela Mutter, but before her, of painting mothers and children. So women also she wasn't a mother herself. So that's very interesting.
Right, so women were confined to this private sphere of life, household and so on. So, and going back to the exhibition itself, right, I believe it is meant to educate people, but what kind of audiences does it attract? Do you know?
I think educate people, but also it's part of the big research of Ewa Ziembińska, and it's the second one. The first one was called Without Corset, Women Around Camille Claudel. And the second one is about Antoine Bourdelle students. What kind of people does it attract? I'm not sure, because it's not the main building, but it's a beautiful building. It's a palace in a park. So I hope that it attracts a lot of people, different people, and that they can just admire the work that wasn't seen. Because it was really hard to find those sculptures sometimes. And we know, for example, some names, and we don't have any artworks because it's really hard to find them. They were lost, or they were not, nobody wrote down. We know it from letters, we know it from some kind of notes, but sometimes there are just no documents. It's very hard work.
This is very tricky, all that lost heritage, unfortunately.
Yes.
Sonia, Kisha, thank you so much for joining us. Much appreciated. And thank you for watching Pulse of Culture. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.